Hey folks, welcome back to our Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at the new version of Maharaja. Maharaja is brought to you by Kramer Games. It's for 2 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, and games are in the area of 90 minutes. In Maharaja, players take the role of priests who travel different cities in India, building statues and shrines dedicated to their favorite gods to expand their worship. To do so, they will be assisted by several characters with different abilities. Each year, the Maharaja, the great king of India, will change his residence and players will receive rewards according to their god's worship value. At the beginning of each year, players will plan their actions in a secret phase to be played simultaneously. At the end of the 7th year, or when a player builds the 7th statue, the game ends. The player with the most prestige points is going to win the game. Now just a quick look at setup here. Big thing to note for this video is that this is very much a prototype. These are just pages, not a real board in place yet, but the artwork, as you can already see, is so much improved over the old game, as well as the player boards. And each player is going to pick a priest color and get their corresponding statues and their shrines. You're going to start the game with 15 gold coins as well as 3 prestige points. Now, you're only going to be able to have 8 of your shrines at the start of the game. And the nice thing about how the game starts is that every player is going to place 4 of their shrines out into the world. They can be along the road, in villages, or in cities, and so forth. The thing about shrines that are so crucial is they are what help you connect between cities and move along the roads with your priest, as it is very crucial to have a priest available to move where you need to and not have to pay exorbitant costs. Because if you have to move through an area with your priest that you don't have shrines, you're going to have to pay your fellow players a gold piece to pass through. So that's something to keep in mind. But you're going to start with 8 of these again, and 4 going out on the board. So choose wisely where you place these. And there's some special rules around 2-player games for this as well. And there's characters with character powers. We're not going to dive into all the different powers, but just know that you have numerous ones to choose from. And every time you play, you put 7 of these into place. But there's a huge stack, way more than you're going to be playing with at any one game, and the way these different characters mix up and add to the game really changes up maybe each time you play. Now, the thing here is that you'll get to pick one of these and put them on your player board as your main character, but you'll see here in a minute with all the actions, there are ways to swap these characters out and even grab characters from your fellow players. And then you have your bonus tiles that you'll place randomly and your flags. These flags are going to dictate or show where the Maharaja is going to travel to next. So these also can be manipulated through actions though. So it's interesting, and it also adds a lot of flavor and a lot of choices to the game about how and when you might move these flags around. And then at the right of the board, you're going to have your end game scoring, as well as showing you the cost to build the various things. Now, this is for the basic game. There are a ton of new things coming in this new version that allow you to really change that up, which we're not going to really dive into here, but I will show you what those look like. There's just a lot of possibilities with this new version, and it just looks beautiful. Now, the game is divided into rounds. In each round, you will try to perform 2 actions. Some actions allow you to build statues and shrines on the map. Your pieces will be worth prestige points at the end of the game, but they will also give you important bonuses and income each round, as long as you have placed them in the city the Maharaja is visiting. Now, shrines can be built inside a city or a village and always will cost you 1 gold point. You can also build statues inside cities. Building a statue in the city where the Maharaja currently is will cost you 12 coins. Building a statue in all other cities costs 10 coins. So it's very expensive to build these statues, but this is what you're after in the end, is to get these points, or these worship points that are so coveted. Your character in the game is your priest. You can only build a statue or a shrine inside a city if your priest is currently located there. Now, each round of the game is divided into 5 phases. You have the Maharaja phase, you have the planning phase, you have the action phase, the city scoring, and the end of round phase. All right, so just a brief look at the gameplay. You know, you have this Maharaja phase right out of the gate, which is one of the interesting things because, as I said before, the different flags at the bottom can be manipulated. So based on that order will determine where the Maharaja will end up. And that's the city that you want to try to gain the most worship points and be the leader in so you can get the most prestige from. Now, that's going to take place first. And then you can move to the planning phase. And this is where the really cool wheel comes into play, where all the players simultaneously are going to pick 2 actions in secret. So this really will dictate how the game goes. And then based on the characters you have and the number at the bottom of that character will dictate your player order. And then you can start performing actions. Now there are 9 different types of actions in this game that you could have picked from. And some of the basic ones are building shrines and building statues, or building a shrine and a statue. But remember, it's super expensive to do so. So you might want to balance that out with earning some money and so forth. But when you build shrines, you have the villages along the way. Again, it's very important that you have villages along the path if you can, because it costs you less money to move from city to city if you have a shrine in that village. But you can also build shrines in cities, which will give you worship points, and that's really what you're after when the Maharaja is there. Or maybe you're planning for the next city that he's headed to, which you can tell by the flag order at the bottom of the board. So those are really interesting things because in each city though, when you build a statue, again, statues are very expensive, but you have multiple spots in the city to build that. If you build in the middle, it's going to be worth 3 worship points. But there's also some bonus spots, and you might get extra coins or things like that based on where you build in one of those 2 bonus spots. Now, those are only going to be worth 2 worship points. And then you can build in the other spots as well. But again, if you build a shrine here and you have your priest here, which you have to have your priest here in order to build statues and shrines. And that's true whenever you go to a city. However, if you're going to build a shrine out in a village somewhere, you can do that anywhere in the world. You don't have to be next to the village to do so. But inside of a city, you have to be there with your priest in order to build those shrines and build your statues. Again, the more you have there, including your priest, statue, and shrine, is going to give you worship points in going towards the majority for winning that city while the Maharaja is there. There's also an action for building 2 shrines, taking coins. There's even an action for turning coins into prestige. So if you have a glut of money, this is a great way to get up on that prestige total. Now, you also only have that limited number of shrines that you started the game with, but there's a larger pool that you can tap into. So that's another possible action, is grabbing 2 more shrines of your color and putting them on your player board. Now, the last 2 actions we'll take a look at are the character action and the Maharaja track. These are really powerful because maybe you've used your character and you don't need his ability anymore. Well, you can go and swap it out. Now, a thing to keep in mind again is based on the number at the bottom of that character will dictate turn order, which character is faster or slower. But again, the slower characters are probably going to be more powerful. So you can also steal characters from your fellow players at the table. And if you do, they'll just pick from the pool themselves and put on their player mat. Now, the Maharaja track, where the flags live. After the Maharaja visits a city and moves on, that flag will then move to the right all the way down the line, meaning it won't come back into play, and showing what round of the game that you have finished. Now, the thing here is that maybe you want the Maharaja to come back for some reason because you have majority and you want to get all those bonuses and coin for having statues and shrines and all those worship points there that you've accumulated, right? So you're going to manipulate that track and you can move the flag 2 spots to the left, hoping to ensure that possibly the Maharaja might be visiting your city again. And that just kind of brushes the surface of all the possible actions. But the interesting thing though, again, is that it really gives you a ton of choices. And because it's all done in secret, it's really interesting to see how that plays out every round because you never know what's going to happen. Stuff you plan for might go awry based on what other folks are doing. But it really is an interesting aspect of this game. Probably my favorite aspect actually is the selection of those actions simultaneously. And then we move to the city scoring phase. And again, based on what you've done in that city is going to give you different worship points. And there's a scale at the bottom of the board showing you how many coins you're going to receive for the different values and so forth. So the different ways to get worship points again is using your statues, which can be worth 3 if you're in the middle, or 2 if you're on the outside around the outside of the city, I should say, in the different designated spots. And if you have any of your shrines in the city, that's worth another point. And if your priest is in the city, that's worth another point as well. You'll total up all your worship points, consult the chart based on the number of players in the game, and then you'll divvy out coins, giving you more ability to either use these coins to purchase prestige points or get more statues and things in play for end-of-game scoring. And another reason to have the most worship points in a city, beyond getting the coins that are called for, is to be the first player to pick among the bonus tiles. These bonus tiles, again, are going to be very valuable throughout the game, and they're going to be rotating through. So you're going to have multiple chances to go after these, but there's also a scale over here showing, based on the player count, which tiles are available at this particular end of round on this particular turn. So you'll want to keep that in mind, and as you pick those tiles, they'll move back up to the top of the board. Then at end of round scoring, you'll take those tiles and shift them all down, and you'll take the flag, the furthest flag to the left where the Maharaja had just visited, and you'll move that all the way to the right, showing which round has just been completed. 1, 2, 3, and through 7. So that's the typical round structure for this game. And so that's just a brief look at this new version of Maharaja. If you enjoy this game already, then this new version really is a nice upgrade. But what's new? Well, there's new scoring tiles. There's also new bonus tiles and new characters in the game. There's a new victory point mechanic and simply greater depth of play. The graphics components have all been upgraded, so it just makes this game that much more beautiful. And I, for one, am pretty excited to see the final published version. All right, folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form, so keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now, with that said, the thing about this is that if you're a fan of the original, this is an incredibly nice upgrade. So many new things, so many new components, and the artwork is just fantastic. But ultimately, folks, if it does look like something that would be of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it for me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.